Good morning, Germany. Good afternoon, Australia. It is a pleasure to have you all here for our virtual industry conference. Today, we will have exciting presentations and discussions all around hydrogen, but also the energy infrastructure, both in Germany and Australia. My name is Max from the German-Australian Chamber, and I will be your host for this conference. To officially open this conference, I would at first please ask Christoph von Spesshardt, the Executive Director of the German-Australian Chamber of Industry and Commerce, on the virtual stage. Christoph, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Max. My name is Christoph von Spesshardt, as you just said, and it's so good to be with all of you virtually together and discuss and prepare the ground for the bilateral business opportunities here in hydrogen. Today is in many regards a very important day for us, and I'm extremely happy and thankful that this will be a great kickoff for future cooperation on hydrogen. Why am I so optimistic? 3 reasons and a big thank you. We have more than 230 registrations, from small to big, and we have great attention and interest here in Australia, but also in Germany on that issue. Secondly, the bilateral cooperation on hydrogen is extremely interesting and accelerating every day. We have a very strong policy support, and we have a clear market openness here in Australia. Last week, we were with a delegation in Canberra, in the capital, and discussed the bilateral opportunities on many different sectors in industry, but also on the other enabling technologies, and we got a lot of green light and strong affirmation and support on hydrogen. Also, we have more than 30 individual meetings with Australian companies coming up. So that is, again, a very, very great sign. And lastly, and that's, I think, a very important one, whoever I spoke to over the last 12 months got really excitement in their eyes. And you could even see that through the screen, and even as early as 6 a.m. in the morning when we touched upon hydrogen. So that all kind of gives me a very, very positive feedback we have. It gives me a good feeling that we will have a great cooperation, a very interesting conference today. I would like to thank our partners initially. That is, of course, the Federal Ministry for Economy and Energy, the BNWI, but also our other partners from energiewaechter. I would particularly thank General Consul Silberberg, who will speak in a minute. And of course, I would like to thank the whole team, not just as the chamber, which are Eva, Matthias, Jürgen, Max, Michael, but also the German-Australian Hydrogen Alliance, which is a new and very exciting initiative we are working with. And of course, thanks to everyone participating, especially, of course, our 8 German companies, and especially to the Germans very early this morning, and of course to all our Sydney participants. I hope your feet stay dry today. You might have heard that we had a very, very rainy days over the last 5 days. So having said that, once again, big optimism and excitement from our side here, and thanks again for participating in what looks like a great conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Christoph. Thank you very much for opening this. Next up, for some welcome remarks, we have Peter Silberberg with us, Consul-General. He is sitting here in Sydney as well, from the Consulate-General of the Federal Republic of Germany here in Australia. Peter Silberberg, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Max. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you to this virtual conference on energy and energy infrastructure and hydrogen of the German-Australian Chamber of Commerce. It is a pity that we are not able to meet in person today, but these are extraordinary times, and I am happy to see you joining us today virtually for this event. I take this as a sign that there is strong interest among German enterprises in the Australian energy market, as well as in the technological solutions developed by German companies on the part of many Australian stakeholders, and I think there are good reasons for that. In recent years, energy has always been a major topic on the political agenda in our bilateral relations with Australia. When Minister Altmaier and his Australian counterpart, the new Minister for Trade, Tourism and Investment, Dan Tehan, held a first virtual meeting a couple of days ago, the development of the hydrogen economy and its opportunities for German-Australian business relations was among the topics discussed. The reason for that is that bilateral cooperation on renewable hydrogen has made tremendous progress over the past few months. This includes the launch of the high supply joint feasibility study, which from the Australian side will be led among others by the University of New South Wales here in Sydney. It also includes the establishment of a dedicated intergovernmental sub-working group on hydrogen as part of our bilateral energy partnership and the creation of the German-Australian Hydrogen Alliance by the Chamber, which is well positioned to support the numerous large-scale industry projects emerging in this area. But in the end, and what really counts when it comes to strengthening our energy relations, it's the engagement of the private sector which makes a difference. Therefore, I am happy to see you joining us today for this conference. I do not dare to dig deeper into the opportunities the energy market offers to German companies, as you will probably hear more about this by the real experts in the course of this conference. Instead, I would like to limit myself to a few remarks on the political framework of our relationship with Australia. My first point is that for us Germans, Australia is a strategic partner in the region. Australia is a well-established democracy based on rule of law and respect for democratic and human rights. We Germans and Australians share the same values, including a rules-based international order and a multilateral world trade order. This is why Australia is named as an important partner in the German government's policy guidelines for the Indo-Pacific, adopted last year across a number of sectors. In this strategic partnership with Australia, trade and investment relations play a central role. Measured by the volume of trade in goods and services between the two countries, Germany is Australia's second most important trading partner in Europe after Great Britain. Second, in the framework of this strategic partnership, Germany and Australia established in 2019 the German-Australian Joint Economic Committee, which held its first meeting on the occasion of a business delegation visit arranged by the German-Australian Chamber of Commerce. The committee met under the leadership of Federal Economic Affairs Minister Peter Altmaier and then Australian Finance Minister Matthias Cormann in order to further intensify the exchange between our two economies. This was an important development, and we are very pleased that our ministries are now working on holding the next Joint Economic Committee meeting at the end of the second quarter 2021 in order to give further impetus to our cooperation. Thirdly, Australia and the EU are currently negotiating a comprehensive free trade agreement, and we are hopeful that these negotiations will come to a conclusion soon, hopefully removing in the process a number of long-standing barriers to trade and investment. This will certainly give a further boost to our bilateral trade relations and might be of importance for your deliberations. Finally, if you are interested in expanding your business either to Australia or the other way around, you will find an excellent partner in the German-Australian Chamber of Commerce, which is both a well-known address in the Australian business sector and well connected in all layers of the Australian society when it comes to promoting business relations between our two economies. And the Chamber can, of course, also connect back to stakeholders in Germany and is closely involved in the work being done under the framework of the Energy Partnership and its sub-working groups. With this, I would like to conclude my welcoming remarks. I wish you all a fruitful conference, and I hope that you will be encouraged by what you learn about the business opportunities in our relations with Australia. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter Silberberg, for those welcoming remarks. Very happy to have you here and to engage further with you. But now we're delighted to kick off this conference with more content, the conference which is part of a whole business delegation featuring 8 German companies, which you all will hear today. The delegation is part of the German Energy Solutions Initiative, funded by the German Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy. Thanks a lot again for all your support. Before we now kick off, a couple of housekeeping rules. As you saw, we are using the software Remo for today's conference. Should you encounter any problems, it is best to just either reload your browser window or restart your browser. If you keep having troubles, please contact our team, Jürgen or Matthias, here in the chat on your side or via email. We will post their email address in the chat in the next couple of minutes. Today's program, you can find that on the very top. There is an icon which shows a calendar symbol. If you want to double check who is speaking at what time, double click there and see the exciting program we have ready for you today. Remo is having two functions. You saw the networking mode earlier, where you and other attendees were sitting at different tables, and every table works very similar to a breakout room. Feel free to engage with our delegates, speakers, or other attendees. At the moment, we are in the webinar mode where we will hold all presentations from today. But again, during the break and after the presentations, we are switching back to the networking mode. And the main idea is to not only create valuable insight with presentations, but also to engage with each other and to build a bridge from Australia to Germany, specifically on hydrogen and the energy infrastructure in both countries. Now I would like to hand over to our partner Energiewaechter, to Marta Cavalli. She was working very closely with us on the ground in Germany. She will give us some insights about the German state and about the program which helps and with the funding helped to bring up this conference and the whole delegation. Marta, over to you.
Thank you very much, Max, for your warm welcome. Good morning here in Germany. Good afternoon to you in Australia. I will now try to share my screen. Perfect. Here we go. And here, once again, here, I think this is the correct, perfect. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy, I would like to welcome you to this virtual conference, which marks the beginning of a virtual trade mission around the topics of energy infrastructure and hydrogen. I'm really happy to see that this conference has aroused such big interest among you in Australia, but also here in Germany.
Marta?
And I think,
Sorry to interrupt you. We can't see your presentation yet. Could you maybe stop sharing it and reshare it again? If there are any troubles with that, we are happy to share from our end.
Okay, I will try this one. Can you see it now?
Just give it a second to reload. Yes. Yes, we are able to see it now.
Perfect.
And you just have to start your presentation mode and you're ready to go.
Yeah, I already started my presentation mode. I think this one. Yeah, perfect. Can you see my presentation, Max?
But not the presentation mode yet, Marta.
Okay.
But that's all right. If there are any more troubles, we're happy to share from our end. You can just give us a go when we should go to the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you can upload my presentation. That's fine. I don't know why it's not working.
That's all good. Sorry for everyone. Sorry to everyone for this.
Sorry.
Technical problems. Just give us a minute and we are ready with Marta's presentation. Thank you again, Marta, for helping us organizing all this conference. Very happy to have you as a partner. And the presentation is ready now. Marta,
perfect.
Over to you.
Thank you very much, Max. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And as I already said before, I'm really happy that many of you are attending this conference. Well, my name is Marta and I work as a consultant at the Berlin-based consultancy firm Energiewaechter. We work on behalf of the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy, and we implement the so-called German Energy Solutions Initiative. I'm really happy that this conference has been organized in a virtual format, since I think that despite these circumstances, we are now reaching even more people than before. So a huge thank to you, Max, once again, to you, Jürgen, and to the whole team of the German-Australian Chamber of Industry and Commerce for having organized this event online and for the successful cooperation before. Next, please. As I told you before, we implement at energiewaechter this German Energy Solutions initiative, which aims at establishing new business partnerships between German companies and their partner countries, such as Australia, for example, in the fields of renewables, energy efficiency, smart grids, and storage technologies. The initiative is coordinating, supported, and financed by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy, and the overreaching goal of the initiative is to contribute to international climate protection goals. In order to reach this goal, the initiative is supporting small and medium-sized enterprises in Germany while distributing their smart and sustainable energy solutions. Next slide, please. The initiative is not only interesting here in Germany, but also for you in Australia as well, since you are highly invited to participate in our initiative. And you have the chance through, for example, events like this one to exchange your technical know-how with German companies and also to exchange your ideas, and you are also invited when it's possible, of course, to Germany. Next slide, please. The initiative, every kind of information, if you want to know more about the initiative, you are highly invited to visit our website, which is entirely in English. There you can find, for example, an online database where you will find German companies according to their profiles and according to the technology they are offering. You will also find, for example, an event calendar with the upcoming events in a virtual format, of course. And you can also have the possibility to read the studies and the analysis published there about many countries in the world in this field of energy solutions. And you also have the chance to submit our newsletter in order to know more what kind of projects are going on in Germany and have been funded by the ministry. Next, please. As I told you before in the beginning, I'm really happy that this virtual conference is marking the beginning of a virtual trade mission throughout the whole week. I'm very happy to be here today with 8 German companies. Here you can see the names of the companies and the websites. Just use this wonderful tool, Remo, to get in touch with them and to exchange your ideas with the representatives of these German companies. They are here to hear from you, since the topic is really highly discussed. And I think that both countries, Australia and Germany, through events like this one, are showing once again that they are willing to collaborate with each other on hydrogen and, of course, on energy infrastructure. And there are massive opportunities for both countries to collaborate to each other. Next slide, please. I'm now at the end of my short presentation. If you have any questions, just feel free to write me in the chat. I'm more than happy to answer you. And I wish you a really successful event, conference, and if you want to arrange an appointment with a German company, feel free to contact Max of the Chamber, and he will establish for you B2B meeting with our German representatives. Thank you very much for your attention and have fun. Thank you, Max. I will now hand over back to you.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you for speaking to us today. Again, very much appreciated to have you here, and so early as well in Germany. 6:20 a.m. Thanks for that. Thanks for getting up early.
Thank you very much.
We would like to start with our first key speaker. And when we were organizing this conference, we knew we could not do it without him. I would announce Leigh Kennedy on the virtual stage now. Leigh, if you could please join us. Leigh is a National Cluster Development Manager at the National Energy Resources Australia. Very happy to have you here today, Leigh. And I would hand right back over to you.
Thank you, Max. Just going to share my screen. Excellent. So while this is sharing, my name's Leigh Kennedy, National Cluster Development Manager for NERA, and have come online on the 1st of Feb when the 13 national clusters were announced. So I guess we've heard a lot around Australian projects, export opportunities. So I guess my discussion today is more around what's happening in the Australian supply chain and how Australia's looking to build that up, because that is a really important part of leveraging the value of an emerging industry like hydrogen. Bear with. Perfect. So a little bit about NERA. Essentially, we're an industry growth centre, Australian government funded but independent, and we've been operating for around 5 years. And really our value add is to connect industry, Australian and internationals, together to build a more sustainable Australian industry. So you can see there the opportunities that we're driving right now, and I'm here to discuss the hydrogen supply chain opportunity that we're working with. And I don't need to go through why hydrogen is the key future for Australia. We're all part of that growth story, whether it be Australia or Germany, and the partnerships are really limitless in terms of Australia and Germany, whether it be importing molecules from Australia, having German companies in Australia developing projects, collaborating on technology services, R&D community. The opportunities are there for everyone across the whole value chain. So before I get into the clusters, one opportunity I'd really like to highlight is the High Resources database. A lot of people around the world have asked me, where do I find all the information around the Australian hydrogen industry? We now have a project data set here, and we've got over 90 projects. So it's housed on the CSIRO website, and most people in the industry understand who CSIRO are, but it's really a collaboration between numerous companies in Australia, stakeholders who are looking to help grow the industry and position Australia as a place to invest, but also to collaborate. So please, if you're looking for information on the Australian pipeline of hydrogen projects, please visit this website. And it's also got a fantastic information data set regarding different Australian levels of Australian government policy, as well as mapping R&D activity. So a really strong data set that will give you a great understanding of what's happening in Australia. So Minister Taylor came out last year and had the ambition that in Australia we will get H2 under 2. Now, what does that actually mean? That's that Australia wants to produce clean hydrogen at under $2 at the farm gate. So it doesn't include transportation. But that's really where Australia wants to get to be able to develop a domestic hydrogen industry, but also to start looking at export opportunities. And really, it's no surprise to this audience that scale will be the biggest driver. And 90% of that cost reduction will be in non-transport applications and will be right across the value chain. So clusters can help us get there. Talking to a European audience, I don't have to articulate what a cluster is. It's a well-known concept in Europe, and it's something that Australia is looking to grapple with to understand how it can really drive Australia forward to be able to leverage the opportunities in all the different parts of Australia, from Tasmania in the south to the Pilbara in the north. So we have had, NERA, we have been on a journey from 2016 when we started and looked at clusters in ocean energy, subsea innovation in the oil and gas space, to November 2019 when the National Hydrogen Strategy was launched. And a key action was for NERA to create industry clusters to kickstart the collaboration within Australia. Feb in 2020, just before COVID struck, we ran 12 national workshops around Australia, and we spoke to over 250 companies around what their view of what an Australian hydrogen cluster would look like. September that year, launched an EOI process, expression of interest. We had 58 applications, which was fantastic, from all the way around Australia, trying to capture some of the seed funding that NERA was putting forward. And they were due in October, and in Feb 2021, we were able to announce that NERA would fund 13 clusters from around Australia. And this was only possible by partnering with states and territory governments and industry to really leverage the money that NERA had on the table to go further and to create additional clusters around Australia. And these clusters have really put Australia on the map. So since we started this, or was announced in Feb 1, we've had numerous discussions, numerous conferences similar to this around the world, highlighting why clustering in Australia. And I'm happy to announce we've got at least 4 or 5 people on this call from the Perth cluster in WA, the Peel and Southwest in WA, as well as Karratha and the Mallee. So it's great to see even the Australians on this call today. And so of the 13, what does it actually look like? Over 300 Australian organisations involved. And if you can see from that graph, 71% are actually industry themselves. And that's from developers, pipeline operators, down to small to medium enterprises and startups who are looking to provide solutions to the Australian industry. And you'll see the key themes. It will be no surprise of the opportunities and focus areas across the whole hydrogen value chain, from production to moving and storing to using the technology, to using the hydrogen molecules in Australia. So I touched on before some of the people that are here. For people that aren't, I guess, across the Australian value proposition, you've got Bell Bay right down in the south in Tasmania. Fantastic hydro assets there with wind, with a great deep port that already has a smelter there that is a potential off-taker, but also great resources, capability, and also training and educational services down in Bell Bay. Moving up to Victoria, you've got Gippsland, which is a $500 million pilot project, blue hydrogen pilot project there, which is fantastic. And it's really been the driver to create the world's first ever liquefied hydrogen vessel. And you keep moving up through Australia. I won't go through all of them. Unfortunately, don't have enough time today. But I'm more than happy to take questions afterwards in the Q&A and provide more information. So what are we looking for right now, and what are the clusters doing? They're really in the phase of building their own clusters out and understanding their local ecosystem. Then it's really around driving the collaboration between the regional clusters. And we've already got projects on the horizon, whether it be around community engagement, mapping capability, mapping the local demand. These are all things that all the clusters are looking to do across Australia. And more importantly, given Australia is part of the global value chain for hydrogen, it's how we can grow relationships with jurisdictions like Germany, but also the regions within Germany and companies within Germany that want to be part of the Australian ecosystem and projects. So now is really the time to support, invest, and get involved. So please reach out. I'm more than happy to talk through some of the work programs that are available and the opportunities. So thank you very much, Max.
Thank you, Leigh. Great to see your clusters up and running, and great to see you getting involved in today's conference. And I hope we can bring some Australian and some German stakeholders together to maybe help with clusters and to help them grow. Thanks.
Most definitely.
Perfect. As Leigh said, if you have any questions, we have a Q&A coming up after the next presentation, and then feel free to put all those in the Q&A section. I see there's already one question there. Is it possible to distribute the slides? As long as all the speakers and delegates are okay with that, we will put them on our website and send them out to all of the participants of today's conference. Thank you for that question. Moving now to some insights from the German perspective. Out from Germany, we have a recording now of Werner Diwald. Werner Diwald is he is chairman of the board of the German Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Association. Very happy to have that pre-recorded message, and he will join us later today as well in the second Q&A. So if you have any questions to him, feel free to engage with him later. But now, have fun with his presentation, and I hope you all learn from his insights from the German perspective.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very proudly to present you our view on the hydrogen world of tomorrow, sector coupling with hydrogen. That is, in our view, the key for really the renewable energy world with energy security supply. Please let me introduce first our association. The German Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Association is now acting more than 20 years. We're advocating the technology development and market introduction of hydrogen technologies, in our view, very successful in the last years. Here you have a small overview of our members, and it starts by energy companies, airplane factory companies, gas manufacturers, renewable energy producers, car manufacturers. So over the whole branch, we have, or different branches, we have our members. I think that make it visible what hydrogen means in the future. That is not only electricity, what we've seen in the past with the renewable energy strategies over the world. It was every time electricity, and of course the electricity branch was involved. But now we move in the next area of the energy transition, and all the branches are involved, and of course all they have a challenge. So why Germany needs especially green hydrogen strategy? Hydrogen is a solution to change a complete energy system, not only the electricity sector, like I mentioned out before. Hydrogen becomes a central rule of the economic energy market design latest in 2050. That is our clear opinion and position, that is, this changing of the system is only working with hydrogen, green hydrogen. Zero carbon mobility with hydrogen and fuel cells in the most economic alternative for industrial economics. Hydrogen mobility secures local industrial jobs in Germany and Europe. Hydrogen produced with renewable electricity reduce the demand of foreign raw materials. And hydrogen means supply security, sustainable and profitability in 2050. So hydrogen is the enabler or link and make the sector coupling from the renewable energy side. It's mostly mostly capacity will be electricity, and hydrogen allows to move this electricity in all other sectors like mobility sector, but industry, decarbonize building, heating and power, and is a server for feedstock. And also, if we move, or why it's additionally so important, in the past, the renewable electricity production was very full out our 8,700 hours. It comes from coal and from nuclear power or oil power plants. But now we move more and more in a fluctuating energy resource. It comes from sun and wind. And on the other side, we need energy security supply. It means we need the electricity when the customers switch on the light, for example. Then the electricity must flow, and not when the wind blows or the sun is shining. And how we can bring it together. It works very easily if we over-install from the electricity side the installations of renewable energy production. Then we have very many hours in the year, or the mostly hours in the year, the electricity production directly from renewable energies. We see it on the right side, integrated energy concept. But on the other side, of course, we have a lot of surplus energy, and we can waste it. We can stop the turbines or reduce the turbines and solar production in these hours, or we can use this energy to produce hydrogen, and then we can transfer it here, for example, in the mobility sector, and also in other industries. So there are a lot of studies done, or for this background, Germany has done a lot of studies, and we see now the demand here on this slide, which we expect, and I think this is a conservative expectation, in 2050 around 600 terawatt hours, which comes from hydrogen. It's not only pure hydrogen, but we will see also diesel or e-diesel, e-kerosene, e-methanol, ammoniac, and also we use the hydrogen to produce heating or use it in the industry sectors. So I think that was the basic, or this figures was more and more visible and communicated by the industry to the politicals. And I think that was really the base for the decision to make a German national hydrogen strategy 2 years ago. Everybody, or the political scene, it's not only a small solution to integrate the renewables, it's more the solution really to decarbonize our whole system, our whole energy system over all branches. And on the other side, it's a big chance for our economic. So we need really a strategy, a long-term strategy, which is supported from the politics, so that the industry actors can act now. The National Hydrogen Strategy, NWS we call it, it's Nationale Wasserstoffstrategie, define the steps that are necessary to contribute to achieving the climate targets, to create a new value chain for German economy, and to further develop international energy policy. The government will support this transformation, or this market ramp up, with 9 billion euros. And they defined 13 concrete objects and 38 coordinate measures, which we want to bring in the market, or realize in the next 10 years. The German government sees the hydrogen demand, which will be increased in the next 9 years about 100%. So at the moment we have a consumption of 55 terawatt hours, and the government expect 110 terawatt hours in 2030. And for that, this additional hydrogen must be, of course, produced by greenhouse or zero emission. So it means mostly green hydrogen. And we want to produce from this additional 55 green hydrogen 14 terawatt hours in Germany. So that means around 5 gigawatt, which we have to install in Germany. And for that, we need additional renewable energy capacity. That is the reason why we have a cap of 5 gigawatt. That means on the other side that we have an import market around 15 gigawatt for the German demand of hydrogen. If you take a small look a short look on the European level, they mentioned out 2 times 40 gigawatt for 2030. So normally Germany should be a little bit more ambitious to install capacities, but I think we have now really a good base to, on one side for the industry, on the other side, I think that is really this tipping point for market rank up for the green hydrogen economy of tomorrow. We see here what happens in Germany until now. We see 68 power projects, power to gas projects in commercial operation in 2020. I think now it's around 50. 2021, we announced, or we hope that we have in the end 1 gigawatt installation. Demand of PTX plants in 2030, I mentioned out, it's minimum 20 gigawatt. There are some studies on the market which based really on realistic numbers. They mentioned out 50 gigawatt, and the demand of 2050 is for Germany more than 160 gigawatt. That is only for Germany, and I think if you take then a look over the whole world, it's really ambitious or amazing market opportunity for the industry to produce electrolyzer, PTX utilities, and so on. Until now, we have 85 hydrogen filling stations. The target of 2024 is 400 hydrogen filling stations. With this 85 hydrogen filling stations, they are really, the position was very intelligent, so that we have the possibility really to drive as a fuel cell car through Germany from east to west, from south to north. That is no problem. Of course, it's at the moment not so comfortable, but it's possible. And I think that is the very positive message, that it's really realistic to drive with hydrogen cars and now with hydrogen trucks in the next years through Germany without any emissions. You see here over the Germany where the mobility station situation is, where the filling stations are, and the next, or what we see now, is really the concentration on trucks, on heavy duty trucks, which operate with hydrogen and fuel cells. I think it's more the market than for the passengers cars. For the first steps, I think it works with the battery cars. But if you see long distance running for the cars and or heavy duty, it's only really possible with hydrogen. And I think that is described, or that is a reason why the big truck companies are really now concentrated on hydrogen with the truck business production. You see buses are produced in Germany also. Toyota delivers a lot of cars to Germany also. So we see really there is a small, but there is a hydrogen fuel cell mobility acting with a lot of people. So I mentioned it out, you see a little bit again here where the projects are placed. That's it's not concentrated on one area, it's everywhere in Germany. Everybody has interest to install power to gas units. To integrate especially the renewable energies, so wind and PV on one side, and on the other side, they see that they latest in 2030 need a lot of clean hydrogen to fulfill the climate targets without payments of penalties. But the question is, of course, now how we can make the move, or the step in the next in the next phase, how we can ramp up the first projects. In the moment, they are not really economic. The business case is not there. How we can create very early business case so that we can move earlier in the hydrogen market than our competitors, our global competitors. We try to find a solution, and it's market-based solutions for that. The idea comes a little bit from the renewable energies. We change our system. Now we have an auction system, which is market-based, and that is so I think that will be the future. And on the other side, this auction system gives the investment security which is needed really for this long-term investments. On this philosophy based the H2 Global program. It's a pre-competitive hydrogen energy partnerships to build a global renewable energy economic and hydrogen industry. As part of the national hydrogen strategy, the Minister of Economics intends €2 billion to develop the H2 Global by 2023. The first projects are to be initiated in early of 21. Sorry, I explain now. It works. It's really an auction. We want to make an auction to buy green hydrogen over 10 years and give the winner of this auction get a fixed price for 10 years for delivery of green hydrogen. And on the other side, we sell or we make an auction for selling the green hydrogen in Germany. And of course, if there is no market for green hydrogen, no requirements to use green hydrogen, everybody will only pay the gray price, so based on fossil energy price. And the difference will become from the subsidy program, and that allows on one side investment security, and on the other side it's for the manufacturers of electrolyzer. There is really a market which will become over 1 gigawatt very soon and with a high security, so they can really invest in ramping up the production capacity in the next 3 or 2 years. That is the target of this program, and we hope that we can really start the program in the second half of this year. And then, because I mentioned it out before, we need this partnership, we need import of green hydrogen, and so we are in a very early stage in the position to create not only theoretically partnerships, we can really bring it in the praxis, in the operation. And I think that is very important to start very early business relationships between the interest countries of the world, can produce very cheaply green hydrogen and can cheaply transport it to Germany, but also to Europe, because we think the whole European Union, all the members need import of green hydrogen in the future if you want to hold our level of industrialization and economic standards. Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to present our activities in Germany and the H2 Global program, and I wish you a good conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Werner, for that insights. As I said, it was a recording, and he will come on the virtual stage at the second Q&A. Very happy to have him later on. But now let's jump into our first Q&A session. Can I please ask Leigh again on stage with me? Hi, Leigh. Thank you. Thank you for joining us again. I would like to start with the first question, which is about aviation fuel. Maybe you can give me some small insights about that. We would then also ask Werner in the second Q&A session about his insights. But the question was, what is the status of development with Airbus and Boeing on hydrogen as an aviation fuel, which has been speculated for many years? Do you have any insights on that, Leigh?
Yeah, thank you, Max. It's not an area of my speciality, but I'm aware that Boeing partnered with CSIRO last year to create a study. I think it's called Commercialization in Aviation Fuels. So they've actually done some work with an Australian research R&D organisation to map out what the opportunities are. So maybe, Max, I can drop you a line or I'll find the report and drop it in the chat there. But that's really as far as my understanding on the aviation work. Sorry, yeah, not one of the areas of my specialisation, but the CSIRO team in Australia might be able to assist.
Thanks, Leigh. Thanks for that, and the link would be very helpful. Maybe you could just, if you find it, drop it in the chat, and then all the other attendees can have a look at that as well. Thank you for that very good question. I think hydrogen fuel for the aviation industry, one of many applications of hydrogen. But maybe to the next question, Leigh, how do you become a NERA cluster member?
Yes, great question, and it's one we have on a regular basis since the announcement. So for us, it's really, I guess, being part of a cluster is being part of a geographic concentrated area. So we've been working with any questions around where to go and how to be a part of it, to understand where the value proposition is for that person and understanding where they should go and whether that's where they're located, whether they've got projects, whether they want to expand. So if it is a German company looking to come into Australia, we can definitely share that information. There is information on our website that gives you the contact details for each of the clusters, so we can share that. So it's all open, and the clusters are very open and welcoming. So it's a very inclusive environment, and really welcome any areas of interest from any company. We've got many companies that are actually involved in multiple. So whether it be European investors, Japanese investors that are across multiple jurisdictions, we've got plenty of examples of companies working across.
Thanks, Leigh. And yeah, it's great to hear that everyone is very open. I talked to many companies in the last weeks or months as well, and yeah, no one closes any doors in front of you. They rather open it when it's about hydrogen energy infrastructure around that. Yeah, so I'm very positive that we can help both Germany and Australia grow that industry. But since it is a German-Australian conference, where do you see the biggest collaboration potential between both countries?
Yeah, great question again, Max. So if you look at the German hydrogen strategy and what they're looking to deliver and how that aligns with the Australian national strategy as well as our own state and territory, I think there's some great alignment on German technology into Australia, and not just to import in, but to actually build the ecosystem out. And we've had the likes of Siemens who are part of the Australian Hydrogen Council. Their head of strategy, Marta, has been a fantastic advocate in driving the Australian hydrogen industry from very early on. So it's not necessarily around just bringing kit to Australia, but adding value and understanding where the opportunities are to go back into Germany together. So, before COVID struck, there was meant to be an Australian delegation go to Hannover Messe to present its capabilities to Germans. And I think there's also opportunity to have German and Australian or partnerships go into third markets. So how can German and Australian partnerships not only have that bilateral, but go in and create energy industry solutions in Africa, in other developing markets that will have a hydrogen industry into the future. So I think there's lots of areas across the value chain, not just in the production, but in the usage as well. And I looked at those maps from the video and envious of the refueling stations, and hopefully Australia is there in years to come. So I think we'll help each other where there are areas of alignment. And yeah, I think it's just going to take people to be open and have discussions, and hopefully this forum is a starting block for those to understand, well, where are opportunities? And I guess that's the joyous part of my role, Max, and to the audience is understanding where the 13 regional clusters are, understanding their priorities and how I can facilitate and streamline some of those connections. So I'm always happy to have those conversations.
Thanks, Leigh. Great answer. And since we are a little bit behind the time, I would now conclude the Q&A session and go to our next speaker. Please, if anyone has another question, drop it in the chat, either in the general chat directly to Leigh. You can also maybe find him in the break later or after, or if you want to reach out personally to him, either go on their website, contact us. We are happy to establish that contact with Leigh. But yeah. Thank you very much again, and we would now go to the next speaker. Thank you, Leigh.
Thank you, Max. Good luck.
Thanks. And now coming up to our first delegate, I'm very happy to have Jens Kottsieper with us today. He is a business development manager at ILF Consulting Engineers. Jens, good morning. Almost
good morning and good afternoon.
Almost 7 a.m. in Germany.
That's all right.
I hope you had your first coffee already and heard some insights from the Australian and German speakers. But now directly over to you, Jens. And thank you again for getting up so early and participating in that delegation.
Thank you very much. Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Jens Kottsieper. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can, and it's in presentation mode as well. Thank you, and over to you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Again, good morning, good afternoon. I'm very glad to speak to you about this great partnership between Germany and Australia. And I thank for the opportunity to talk to you from an engineering point of view. So my topic is about hydrogen engineering along the value chain, because hydrogen is not just the production. It covers a lot of different business sectors, from energy production down to the different applications and deployment. I'm business development manager at ILF Consulting Engineer, which is a German-Austrian engineering company. And I brought some slides on who we are and what we are working on currently. I would say ILF is an infrastructure engineering company, so we're very much in large infrastructure, also starting with small pilot plants, but later on to connect many parts of the world with energy, with water, with gas, and also to connect with roads. We have worldwide more than 2,400 employees in the locations you can see on that map. And we exist more than 50 years in different parts. And unfortunately, yet Australia has not a dot yet, but we are working on, and I come to that a little bit later. What we provide is mainly engineering services, but also in the last years, since projects getting more and more complex, we provide project management services, and last but not least, in early phases, also consulting. So we usually start with a project development, with a master plan, with feasibility study and different screenings, and go through the different design steps down to construction and commissioning of smaller or larger infrastructure plans. The hydrogen that we see is, if I may come from the green energy or green hydrogen point of view, which isn't, of course, it's a great opportunity with Australia, also being aware of the blue hydrogen opportunities. It starts here with the production side with solar power, but not to forget the water treatment and water supply for the hydrogen production. And then going down into different types of transportation. I mean, the power needs to be transported to the plant. The hydrogen needs to be produced, and also then there's a question what to do with the hydrogen. Is it consumed on site, or is it being transported in pipelines or in other forms? Down to the different deployment fields, which may be the power generation, but we see, of course, which is the classical gray hydrogen offtake as the refining and the chemicals and petrochemicals sector, including the ammonia production, and then going into the new sectors like transportation, but also what we discuss, for instance, in Europe and in Germany, is the steel industry as an interesting off-taker in the future. So it's an integrator factor. Coming to some projects that we have been working on and we are currently working on, starting with a pilot plant. The sector is still in the pilot plant phase for we say up to 10 megawatts, several facilities operating. Werner has mentioned this earlier. So we're working on a project, on a 4 megawatt project in Austria, which is currently under construction. and being commissioned by end of the year. But what we see, as we also have a quite significant experience in gas transportation in the past, one is the power to gas, so working on a 100 megawatt facility in Germany, and just recently got another one in order to produce on 100 megawatt, which is an industrial scale, hydrogen, and maybe together with methanation, and injecting it into the pipeline system. So that which also means in Europe, we discussed this quite intensively now. So how do the compressor station react? How can pipelines being converted even to hydrogen pipelines? A very interesting topic, and this is also interesting for the relationship between Australia and Germany, is the transportation of hydrogen over long distances. And we studied this already for the steel industry in Europe to get hydrogen from the Middle East, which is a couple of thousands of kilometers. But I mean, since we have already an intensive relationship on the energy side between Australia and Germany, we are also optimistic that there will be ways in the future and also already being discussed now to transport energy, hydrogen from Australia to Germany, for instance. A short insight into our pilot plant. As I mentioned, now we are in this range up to 10 megawatts, which are being operated. We see already EPC tenders up to 50 megawatts in the world. And even then coming to the larger scale, 100 megawatts, we see FEEDs, so front-end engineering designs. And these gigawatt scale projects, which are discussed also in Australia, we see this in many parts of the world in an early phase. But this project here is the purpose of that is to use the power from the power grid and to provide grid balancing services, and use that hydrogen being produced for heating purposes and later to fuel the truck fleet. I mentioned that a little bit earlier before. We are studying, and this is still a study phase, the integration of the production and demand, or let's say the supply and demand areas. We expect, we have been working on a white paper recently, and if you're interested, you can look to my LinkedIn account, or I can also send it to you, this white paper on how to upscale the hydrogen business using different means of infrastructure and also products. I skipped that a little bit. It's just for your information. I will share my presentation right after my presentation in the chat if it works. Otherwise, I can send it to you later, or you will find it as Max mentioned before. So I think that's from my side. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you, and I hope we will together design the energy partnership in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jens, for the great presentation and insights. Very happy to have you as a delegate, and yeah, very happy to listen into some of the individual meetings in the upcoming week as well. I hope we have some fruitful discussions. Happy to have you. If you have any questions, please, I would ask you to come directly to Jens, either in the break or as well in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to him at any time, and he is trying to help you and give you more insights. But I think that presentation was a great start already. Thank you, Jens.
Thank you.
Now, next up, I'm happy to introduce our next delegate from 2G Energy. We have Banken with us. Andre is a Director, International Business Development. Andre, if you could please come on stage now, that would be great to hear from you and to hear insights from 2G Energy.
Yes.
Good morning.
Is my camera working?
Yes, I can.
Yes, my camera is working, right? Yes, wonderful. Good morning. Yeah, let me quickly share this. Just a minute. Okay, share. There we are. Okay, does it work? You can see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Andre. Over to you.
Okay, perfect. Perfect, wonderful. So, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon to Australia. Nice to meet every one of you. Yeah, I'll have the brief opportunity to G Energy about our hydrogen solutions for gas engine-driven cogeneration applications. So, a few brief comments about our company. So 2G was founded in 1995. Our company headquarters is located in the northwest of Germany, North Rhine-Westphalia. Our company is what we call a one-stop shop for gas engine and CHP applications. Our usual power range goes from 60 kilowatt electrical to 2,500 kilowatt electrical for biogas and natural gas, that is. But 2 years ago, we also introduced our own line of gas engine-based applications for hydrogen operation in the power range between 115 and 600 kilowatt electrical output, with a 750 kilowatt unit just being introduced to the market at the moment, but I'll get to that a little bit later. 2G is a stock-listed company. It's back in 2007. We went public on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange in Germany. Nowadays, we're almost 700 employees in the company, with last year turnover roughly being 250 million euro. And up till this date, 2G has supplied roughly 6,500 cogeneration systems on various gas types to more than 50 countries, including Australia already, but also about that, I'll get to it in a minute. So 2G in its core, we are a CHP system and engine manufacturer with our own manufacturing facilities and also our own R&D division, which we believe sets us apart a little bit from other players into the field, because our company is fully dedicated to these application types, also for various gas types, such as natural gas, biogas, propane, and of course hydrogen, with our own engine series from 60 kilowatt up to 1 megawatt. What I mean with R&D is really not modifying of existing engine technologies, not retrofitting of other brands, manufacturers. What we're talking about is 100% genuine OEM capability in this segment. So how does a CHP basically work? You can use every type of gaseous fuel that you want, the classical cases being the aforementioned natural gas, biogas, and of course hydrogen as well, and convert it to electricity, meaning power or heat. And this heat can come in various forms, such as steam or also chilled water. To put it in a bit more in a more pragmatic point of view, so you use the fuel gas, whatever it is, you can provide the electricity, and the thermal energy can be converted to chilled water, for example, for in the food and beverage industry or in the chemical industry, for example, into steam at different temperatures and pressure rates, simply as hot water, or also via an OSC unit, even to create even more electricity. And all of these application types are independently from the fuel that is being used to generate the power and thermal energy. So on that end, if it's natural gas or hydrogen or a mix of it, for these application types, it doesn't really matter. So hydrogen, what actually brought us here today. So back in 2018, 2G introduced its own range of 100% pure hydrogen gas engines, being the first ones in the world to actually do that and implement on a commercially driven project. So what we did for these gas engines is we modified a specific gas train for 100% hydrogen operation. We retrofitted the technology to a gas injection type system, a so-called multi-point ejection. We provided a new design for spark plugs and pistons to actually comply with the 100% hydrogen content of the fuel. And other than fuel cells, for example, these engines allow partial load operation. They allow island mode, meaning off-grid operation, which is already proven in the field. And also as gas blending is possible with these kinds of engines and technologies. That means it's possible to blend a fuel, let's say natural gas and hydrogen, from 0 to 100% and vice versa, even with a flexible fuel change during the actual operation. That means, for example, given, I don't know, we produce hydrogen enough to run the engine at 60% capacity. But if we want to run it on full capacity, we just add natural gas to the fuel mix directly at the engine inlet and keep it operating on full load all the time with flexible fuel changes. What's also possible is to use waste hydrogen. That means hydrogen that's created as a byproduct, for example, of a chemical process or a manufacturing process, and that is polluted with impurities like sulfur, chlorine, ammonia, whatever you imagine, and is therefore often not fit to be used again in an economical way, for example, in a fuel cell, because you need to install gas cleaning in advance, which increases the capex by some demand. But instead, due to the experiences we made in other segments, like in landfill gas or sewage or biogas treatment, is that these engines are very well able to cope also with this, let's say, contaminated waste hydrogen and still provide economical benefit even to gas that today is just flared. And last but not least, as we already have an existing fleet in Australia as well, all of these engines are basically able to be retrofitted in the field later on. So for example, there's a lot of talks that they have with customers at the moment that are thinking of investing in a natural gas or biogas cogeneration system today, but have the clear vision to switch to hydrogen at some point later on. With these systems and a simple retrofit kit, it's actually possible. So how are our current public references looking like? You see there are a number of them, ranging from 110 to 360 kilowatt electrical. What I want to put emphasis on are the projects that are realized or executed not in Germany, but overseas already. One project we did together with, or we're doing with together with Siemens in the United Arab Emirates at the moment for 360 kilowatt electrical, a green hydrogen project. Then we're currently doing a project in Japan that we're not yet allowed to publish with a waste hydrogen project, actually, from a chemical process. And another one we just recently installed on the United Kingdom at the Kirkwall Airport in Orkney, where again, hydrogen is produced from a green source, and that is wind power. And there are more projects.
No, all good. Your presentation stopped sharing, and we can only see you at the moment. Could you maybe bring it up again? I think it was gone when you were talking about the projects.
Yep.
Just so that everyone has a chance to see them as well.
Yes. Yes. Okay, just a second.
Sorry to interrupt.
Boom. Yes, this one. No. Are we back?
Give it a second. It's loading.
Is it back again?
Yes, it's back now. And we can see the latest hydrogen references.
At the reference page.
Yes. Back over to you.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, you can see those I was talking about just now again. So again, we do not only install these already in Germany, but also overseas in yeah, as I said, in the United Arab Emirates, Japan, and in the United Kingdom as well. And there's also another one just being signed last week that is going to head for South Korea as well. So we're also selling these over or installing these overseas already. So 2G in Australia, very briefly. 2G is active with a local partner in Australia back since 2014 already. By the end of 2020, 24 units have already been installed or are still currently in transport. The customer range, we were able to supply systems to include the agricultural sector, public municipalities, aquatic centers, F&B companies, landfills, and commercial buildings. So it was a large range of customers. To give you an idea, the smallest unit so far that has been installed was 150 kilowatt electrical, the largest one being 2.5 megawatt at the moment. And it's a wide mix of customers and segments. They're installed more or less all over the, I would call it eastern part of Australia, so Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, and also South Australia. And the service is being taken care of all of these units. So regular service and maintenance is of course needed, as you can imagine, by our local partner called Evo Energy Technologies. Their head office is situated in Brisbane, but they also have locations in Sydney and Melbourne. To give you a few ideas how it looks like, so usually 2G supplies their system in a containerized setup like you see it here. That's a location in New South Wales for a classical agricultural project with a 550 kilowatt unit where biogas was generated from pig manure and food waste. The commissioning was back in 2017. This engine has nowadays an availability over the entire lifetime of roughly 97%. So with this one, we're at 8,100, 8,200 operating hours, and which shows that it works quite reliably, also in an Australian condition. That's another one for a sewage plant for a public utility, Southeast Water in that sense. 2 times 360 kilowatt installed. Commissioning in 2019, and this one is actually equipped with a gas blending system as well, where we currently mix sewage gas with natural gas to achieve full output the entire time in case the sewage gas production is fluctuating. And in the same manner, theoretically, instead of natural gas, also hydrogen could be used at this site to blend in the appropriate amount to use, on the one hand, the entire sewage gas that is produced, and on the other hand, have the engines operating on full load the entire time. Last one, this is again biogas one, also 550 kilowatt, also in 2019 commissioned. This was installed at Taze Meats in NERA Court in South Australia, and also they have a gas blending system installed. So also there with a retrofit kit, if required, it's theoretically possible to also operate these units on hydrogen additionally or as a 100% substitute fuel. Some international references, not all of them hydrogen-based, of course, but as this presentation is being shared with everyone, I will not delve too deeply into them. And of course, there's a number of reference videos as well, if you would like to check. There are some links in there. We have our own channel. If you have some time to spare, maybe have a quick look, view a few of them. Usually they're all 2 to 3 minutes long, so it won't take up too much of your time. And with that, I hope I've stayed in the time, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you for that. There was one question in the Q&A session, but since we are a little bit behind time, could I please ask you to get in touch with that person directly, maybe in the chat? You can see the question, like I said, in the Q&A session. I think it was directly to you. If not, we're happy to facilitate contact in the break. But thanks, Andrew, for your presentation. And I would now come to the next speaker. And we all talked a lot about hydrogen now, but we all know we need to look at the whole value chain. It's not only about hydrogen and the production of hydrogen. It's especially when we talk about green hydrogen, it's about renewable energies and bringing them up and looking really at the very start until the end of the value chain. That's why we have Dr. Mario Jochim here with us today from Highvolt. He will especially look into testing equipment, and I would now hand over to him. Mario, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Max. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so yes, thank you very much for the introduction. Yes, and I'm happy to join this conference today and give you a little bit information about the testing of offshore wind energy system, because as Max said, sorry, what's going on here? It's not only about the hydrogen as such, but it's also about the energy and especially the green energy from wind farms offshore, from PV and or hydrogen, which makes the future of hydrogen, or will hopefully make the future of hydrogen a success story. The company I'm representing is Highvolt from Germany, and we are a full manufacturer of all the equipment you need to test cables, transformers, GIS after manufacturing in the factories of Siemens or others, but also for testing the same accessories or the full systems after installation on site, or in case of offshore wind farms offshore as well. So if you look at such an offshore wind farm, you have obviously the individual windmills, then you have a collector station, and between the collector station and the individual windmills, you have the so-called inter-array cables. And then from the collector station to the shore, the export cable. And it is known very well that these cables are or can be subjected to failures, and these failures mainly come from installation. So it deems necessary and important to test such cables after the installation, and maybe also while the wind farm is under maintenance. You should test the cable every year, every second year, just to make sure that the cables are still in good health and do what they are supposed to do to bring the energy from the wind farm to the shore, and the green energy can be used for households or for generation of hydrogen. So what we have done together with industrial partners in the last 1 or 2 years, we have developed, animation I skipped. We have developed a portable on-site testing system for such array cables. The cables have to be tested according to the latest IEC standard with a test voltage of 72 kilovolts, and it is essential that you have to bring test equipment to that platform, or at a later stage, that's also a discussion currently going on, that you have such a test system installed permanently. The biggest challenges for such equipment are obviously you have to transport them via vessel under sometimes harsh conditions, and you have to install them on the platform, and we are exposed to the harsh sea conditions as well, meaning wind, meaning the sea climate with salt in the air and so on. So it needs to be taken care of things like the painting, the transportation stability, and such equipment has to be also certified by companies like DNV, and you have to agree with the operators of the platforms. That's also an important point for the maximum lifting capability of their cranes. That also makes it necessary to have it modular, because for several projects at the moment, the maximum lifting capability is only 3.7 tons per individual item. That's why a modular system, which can easily be upgraded for the needs, and especially here for the maximum length of the cables to be tested. The system can be amended with the necessary equipment to perform also partial discharge measurement on the cables, and then here especially on the terminations and the joints in between. A next important item of such a wind farm is the export cable, as mentioned earlier. Such cable can have a length of several 10 up to 100 kilometers and more. And as we, I guess, all know, especially with the submarine cables, we are exposed to the harsh environmental conditions, but it can also be that a vessel just dropping its anchor and destroying the cable. So it would be good, and it is essential to know if a failure in the cable happens, to find that failure as soon as possible and to start the repair work as soon as possible. Because if a cable is broken, you cannot transfer the energy from the wind farm to the shore, and everyone is just losing money. So there is a system in place which helps you to find the failure at the time the breakdown occurs. What you need from the cable is the length and the propagation velocity of the cable. That are either data you get from the manufacturer, or you perform a reference shot and get a fingerprint. The next step is that you install at both ends of the cable sensitive voltage sensors and digital impulse analyzers. And in case the breakdown happens, these sensors decouple the data, and based on the input data's length and propagation velocity, the fault distance is calculated within minutes. And obviously you also know where, for example, a joint is in your cable, or there is also GPS data available about the movement of vessels. If you relate all that together, you can get a pretty close idea of where the fault is and start the repair work as soon as possible. And to give you an idea about how it works and how accurate it is, that's just from a LAN cable here, because you normally don't really get so many cable failures, and you don't really get access to failed cable systems right away. So we have taken here the chance to demonstrate the capability of such a system on an 8.2 kilometer cable system in Bangkok. That cable system has failed during on-site commissioning with damped AC regularly, but no one could really determine the breakdown and with traditional methods. So we got the chance afterwards to go with our system. We installed the sensors, we did the fingerprint measurement, and then we applied high voltage, and the breakdown was detected at a position of 6.4 kilometers from one end. And that measured fault location was then matched with an installation plan, and it turned out that exactly at that position there was a cable joint. That joint then later on was opened, and it was found that there was really a problem in that joint. And we have meanwhile also done measurements on cable lengths up to 400 kilometers, but not on cable systems with a fault, but we have installed at one end a small spark gap. So we simulated the failure at the far end of the cable, and we could still detect that fault with the exact distance. Another important item of such a wind farm is, of course, the wind turbine and the transformer in the nacelle itself. These units are exposed to harsh operational conditions, strong load cycling, high number of switching cyclings, harmonics, transient voltages and resonances, and you have a permanent mechanical vibration, the harsh climatic conditions, salt fog, and from time to time indirect lightning strokes. So it also deems necessary to test the transformers from time to time to check their performance, to check if they are still in good health. And here again, a modular system is available consisting of a static frequency converter with 200 Hertz output voltage, a small step-up transformer, and HV filters, and voltage measurement, so that you can go up to the cell, connect the system to the transformer, and perform the tests you want to check if the condition of a transformer. The system can be extended again by small coupling capacitors and the PD measurement to get even more information about the health of the transformer. And all that systems I have just shown now are not only for the offshore wind farms, but we can also use for, like this one, for any distribution transformer, or the resonance system shown before can also be used for any medium voltage cable you have in your network. And in summary, yes, we are highly experienced in high voltage testing over decades. We have, as I said, all the necessary equipment, especially for factory testing, on-site testing, and offshore testing. As I said, the system for the 66 kV offshore cable or array cable application is according to international standards. We have a first experience with JDR cable in the UK for a project with Ørsted in the Northern Sea. And as I said, it can also be used for testing of any medium voltage onshore cable. The fault location system is very precise and gives you immediately the location of the breakdown of your cable, and it can monitor several hundred kilometers of cable. And the test system for testing transformer of wind turbine applications, it's portable, easy to use. Again, weight has been an issue because the crane for which goes up to the turbine only has a limited lifting capability. The system can be used for the induced voltage test and for PD measurement. And as I said, it can also be used to test distribution transformers anywhere up to 10 MVA. And that would be the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Mario.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Mario, for those insights. Great to look not only at the hydrogen production itself, but also at the whole value chain. Thank you, and I would go right to the next speaker, who is Thorben Andersen. Thorben is from Fichtner, and he's sales engineer, business development for Asia and Oceania. Thorben, if you could please come on stage. Thank you and good morning. I would hand over to you.
Hey, Max. Thank you very much, Max. And thank you for being part of this business conference. It's really a pleasure. I will share my screen right now. Hope that you are already able to see it.
Yes, we can see it, and it is in presentation mode. Thank you, Thorben. Over to you.
All right. Thank you, Max. So hello, everybody. A very quick introduction about Fichtner. We are an international active engineering consultancy. We have a track record in Australia for more than 20 years now. We started with big desalination plants early 2000, and have also covered renewable energy projects and are now especially active in the growing waste to energy sector, where we also have permanent staff based on the East Coast. And we are at the moment in the process of setting up an office in Sydney, especially for the purpose of delivering hydrogen services. Fichtner is active in 4 business sectors, water infrastructure, consulting and IT, and especially energy and renewable energies and environment. Within our energy sector, we are covering, for example, power transmission, gas networks, large storage projects, as well as conventional power plants. And obviously in the renewable energy sectors, we are covering large renewable power plants, environmental permitting, and all related services for those projects. We are delivering projects in a very early stage, for example, for master plans or pre-feasibility studies, and this continuing this through all project phases until the construction of projects and also the commissioning. In terms of hydrogen, we already have a track record for more than 30 years already. You can see that we have also been active and collected our experience through all project stages. We have delivered several projects in the early stages. We have developed business models because most of our clients in the beginning of their projects, they try to understand what could be a business case. So we are identifying potential customers. We're trying to match the capacity of, for example, renewables, the prices to potential products. In Germany, usually this should be close by. We do not have those large transportation projects yet. So that's an issue mostly all of our clients are facing. Then we do complex project development and conceptual studies. We have developed our own tool for that. It's called the Fichtner Hydrogen Optimizer, where we can model very complex sector coupling projects, for example. We can do all the sizing of the different engines, the plants, the storage facilities. We can look into different pressures of gaseous hydrogen, but also consider liquefied hydrogen. Then the hydrogen plant design. This is actually where we have started our hydrogen journey with the German Aerospace Center. We have designed large test benches for the European Space Agency to test rocket engines. The European rocket engines, they are running with liquefied hydrogen. So we have designed not only those test benches, but the whole infrastructure, storage and compressing gaseous hydrogen, transporting gaseous hydrogen, but also liquefied hydrogen, of course, and other gases and liquids which are needed to run those tests. This is why we're also very well qualified for hydrogen infrastructure projects. We already have done several project concept studies on switching from natural gas to hydrogen transport networks. But we have also already done designs for power plants, for example, combined cycle power plants, and to really have a hydrogen ready infrastructure if they want to switch from natural gas to hydrogen as a fuel. We did also projects in the context of hydrogen mobility, on-site electrolyzer systems for refueling. And most recently in Australia, a project on green fuel production, but I will say something on the next slide on this topic. We are also actively developing the hydrogen sector, started in 2019 with the Fichtner Hydrogen Forum. Last year it was a hybrid conference, virtual and on-site in Germany. This year, it will be the same international conference about most current hydrogen topics. On this slide, I brought a small selection of hydrogen projects. The first one is what I've said before. It's in Tasmania. It's a concept study about 300 megawatt renewables input power, then hydrogen production by electrolyzer systems. And the idea is to look at e-fuel production, various types of e-fuels, and also develop the concept and do the front-end engineering development and preparation. Then I brought two references for the hydrogen infrastructure design. One task was, it's the number 2 here, one task was to develop a total new idea about the hydrogen system at a site, trying to figure out synergies between liquefied hydrogen and gaseous hydrogen, and also renew the whole gaseous part, 4 new compressors, pipelines, etc. So here we did the whole system design. Then we have designed a 100% hydrogen-ready natural gas infrastructure for a combined cycle power plant. The topic was mostly about the gas interconnection point. And one project I'd like to show you is a production site in Wunsiedel. It's about 8.5 megawatt of electrolyzer power. They are using renewable energy too to produce gas. It's in combination with a Siemens electrolyzer system to produce around 1,500, 1,400 tons of hydrogen per year. Here we are assigned as a general planner, and we did the whole detailed and conceptual design, and we also do the whole permit management. Another interesting topic, it's not mentioned here, is a project in Austria for a local utility, where we have developed a very complex sector coupling project. It's a 5 megawatt production site of electrolyte with an electrolyzer, and then using the excess heat, using the hydrogen as a whole. It's a very integrated project where every energy source and all the waste energy is also used. And just to give you a short idea about what we are doing besides hydrogen, like I said before, we are very active in the renewable sector. So we have been the owner's engineer for a very large photovoltaic power project in the United Arab Emirates of maximum power peak of almost 1.2 gigawatt of power. We are a technical consultant for the tendering of a very large wind power project in Saudi Arabia with about 1.5 gigawatts of power. We are also active in the hybrid sector. This project here, the idea was to install a battery on site of a 1 gigawatt combined cycle power plant to smooth the operation of the gas turbine by buffering the interface between the grid and the power plant. And a recent project in Australia was our involvement as a lender's technical advisor for the Kwinana waste to energy plant. Yeah, and I will also share this presentation at the end of my short presentation. In the backup, there will be some more project reference for hydrogen projects, but also some slides on our whole portfolio. So if you want to take the time and have a look at it, you're welcome. I will be also available now in the session, in the break, for any questions and discussions. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Thorben. Great to have you as a delegate. Now, after this, as you might have seen it on the schedule, we have a short break scheduled. Feel free to take a short break, fill up your water glasses or coffee or tea whatever you prefer. But I would also ask you, please engage with other attendees, get to know other attendees. I think networking in the last year was not very present in too many events, but with this platform Remo, you now have the chance to actually speak to other delegates and other participants, and also some of our speakers. So to all of you, have a good break, and we will see you all back in 15 minutes. Thank you, and see you soon. Welcome back to all of you. I hope you had great conversations in the break. Please feel free to either have them later on, continue them after our presentations, or here in the chat. But now I already see our next speaker, Andrew, on stage. Andrew, it's great to have you here today. Andrew is actually from CWP Renewables, but he's development manager from the Asian Renewable Energy Hub. And it's great to give you some insights about that today, to see one of many important projects in Australia. Andrew, over to you.
Great, thank you very much, Max. Hello, everyone. Guten Morgen to the Germans and good evening to the Australians. I just quickly share my slides. So, yeah, we're developing a project called the Asian Renewable Energy Hub. Essentially, it is renewable energy at oil and gas scale, and it's going to send energy to both local and export markets. So if you look in the top left of this slide, you can see where we're located. It's in the region called the Pilbara in the northwest of Australia. And then you can see a photograph of our site. It's a very large desert site, over 6,500 square kilometres. And if you look straight ahead in this photo, you look to the fast-growing markets in Asia. And if you look left, there are markets in the Pilbara, particularly production and export of iron ore and natural gas. And there's a big move in the Pilbara region to start decarbonising scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions. So the demand for clean energy in electrical and chemical forms is only going to increase. Trying to change slides. Here we go. Okay, so the name of the game really is converting electrical energy from electrons into molecules, whether that's hydrogen or derivatives of hydrogen, such as ammonia. And this schematic sort of shows indicatively how that can be done. So on the left-hand side, we have renewable energy at scale, wind and solar primarily. Then the energy is transmitted with overhead cables to a downstream area where a bunch of processes occur. So initially desalination of seawater to produce fresh water, electrolysis of the fresh water to split off the hydrogen, air separation to distill nitrogen from the air, and then the combination of hydrogen and nitrogen to form ammonia, NH3. That can then be stored in liquid form in large tanks onshore, and then it can be pumped either to a port or offshore, to an offshore loading facility for loading onto ships to then carry to markets globally. So this shows with a little bit more detail of how that works on our site. So in the middle, you can see a big site. It's about 80 kilometers by 80 kilometers, more or less. And then the diagonal lines that you can see on the site are actually rows of wind turbines. So we'll have over 1,700 wind turbines, indicatively 10 megawatts plus. So yes, the lines are rows of dots, the turbines. The rows are spaced around 5 kilometers apart. And then between the rows, there are the yellow rectangles, which are solar PV arrays gathered around the electrical substations. The power is then fed electrically, as I showed you in the previous slide, using overhead power lines, which are purple here. And all the power goes in electrical form to the light blue area near the top left. And that is where the electrons are converted to molecules, which are then sent offshore with the red pipeline or the red corridor that goes up to the top left. heading offshore, and you can see a little figure on the right-hand side, which shows either loading towers or buoys, like single-point moorings, to then load, or for ships to connect to then be loaded and pumped from the liquid ammonia stored on shore. So yes, that gives an overview of how it would work on a site like ours. So just by the numbers, I mean, we've been doing this for a long time now. We started development over 6 years ago. In 2019, we worked very closely with ThyssenKrupp from Germany, who I'm sure you'd all know. A very interesting process to optimize all of this infrastructure and choose how to lay it out and how to operate it in the most efficient way. So on our side, the current optimum mix is 16 gigawatts of wind generation with 10 gigawatts of solar generation. So yeah, more wind than solar, but every site will be different. This combination will generate around 98 terawatt hours per year and feed that into ultimately 14 gigawatts of electrolyzers. So that would produce almost, about 1.75 million tons of green hydrogen per year. And then if all of that is turned into ammonia, it's almost 10 million tons of green ammonia per year. So it's obviously a very big project. I mentioned before, it's renewables at oil and gas scale. Indicative capital cost is around 36 billion. The best way to conceptualize it or think of it is like a big LNG precinct, such as we have in Northern Australia. So many of you would be aware of the markets for hydrogen and also specifically ammonia. So in our part of the world, Japan in particular is pioneering a lot of work to co-fire ammonia in coal-fired power stations initially, and then in gas turbines. So there's been a lot of R&D, which is now sort of hitting the ground and starting to be applied. And then if it's successful, it could be adopted at a large scale in Asia. Shipping is a very interesting sector. Obviously, it's, in general, with decarbonising, you would electrify everything first and power it with renewables. That's not so easy for very large ships. You can't, large enough batteries are just not practically viable at this point. Even compressed hydrogen gas is not really viable for very large long-distance ships, which leads us really to ammonia as one of the few contenders to decarbonise shipping. Obviously, there's lots of potential in trucks, trains, and buses. Hydrogen and derivatives of hydrogen, including ammonia. It'll be very interesting to see whether ammonia is shipped globally and then cracked back to hydrogen, as some projects are now proposing. But yeah, it's a very, very fascinating space, and obviously it's a clear part of the German thinking around sort of hydrofuels, and then of course existing markets such as fertilizers, which currently are very emissions intensive and represent a big opportunity to decarbonize through the adoption of green hydrogen to displace black and brown hydrogen. So from our perspective, projects like this represent a very unique opportunity between Australia and Germany. So clearly Australia and Germany have shared values, which is really important in this sort of modern era, but also we have natural synergies. So it's inevitable that Australia will become a very large producer and exporter of green hydrogen fuels, simply because we have the land with fantastic wind and solar resource. Which is obviously needed to produce green hydrogen at scale. Germany, clearly will become a very large consumer and importer of these green hydrogen-based fuels, but also it is a major supplier of the enabling equipment and services, including, the companies that we have seen and heard from today. So, of course, there are many opportunities for German industry, and I've just done a brain dump of some of the obvious ones. So, wind turbines. We'll need over 1,700 very large wind turbines. Solar inverters. We have 10 gigawatts of solar PV, so we need lots of solar inverters. All sorts of electrical cables, transformers, substations, testing equipment like a previous presenter described. 14 gigawatts of electrolyzers. That's, it's a huge quantity of electrolyzers. Ammonia synthesis plants, hydrogen storage, desalination, cranes to raise wind turbines, all sorts of industrial software, professional services. Then even automation and robotics for assembly, installation, maintenance, and logistics, which is important to achieve, with projects of our nature and scale. Shipping, all sorts of opportunities. So again, really broad and deep opportunities for German industry. However, the greatest risk for projects like ours is not so much equipment supply. It's market risk. So we have multiple options for sourcing the enabling equipment and services. Obviously, with a disclaimer that we need massive scale, which obviously restricts us to a subset of suppliers who have the ability to scale with us. Particularly with electrolyzers and compressors and those sorts of equipment. So really, the challenge and also the opportunity for Germany is to combine its demand for green hydrogen-based fuels with the potential for its industry to supply the enabling equipment and services. So again, thinking and acting as Germany Inc. rather than just being a bunch of suppliers wanting to sell us stuff. Very intrigued to learn more about H2 Global. It seems that is the direction that Germany is now moving towards. Again, combining its demand with the potential for German industry to contribute to the supply. And then obviously, the first movers in this new global energy transition will be able to secure the best sources of green hydrogen from the best global sites. We believe that our project is absolutely in tier one of the very best sites in terms of the resource, the very low geopolitical risk, and the scale. There's a small handful of other big sites of our nature. Obviously, once we start producing, we will just keep producing for the very, very long term. So there are real opportunities for those who move first to secure those opportunities and to secure that supply. So yeah, again, the key opportunity is how to combine demand with supply to realize the full range of benefits for Germany and also for Australia. So that's the end of my presentation, nice and short and sharp. Hopefully that was interesting, and I'm very happy to take any questions in the Q&A chat box. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Andrew. Great project. And we hope with that conference and further talks, we can help Germany and Australia collaborate on that project, but on furthermore as well, hopefully. Thank you for your presentation, and we'll have you soon back for a quick Q&A session. But first, I would ask Dominik Herle on stage. Dominik Herle is Corporate Business Development Manager at the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft at the headquarter in Germany. Dominik, good morning, and over to you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you, Dominik, for the presentation, and I would kindly ask you to stay on the stage, and I would like to ask Andrew to join and also Werner Diwald now for the Q&A session. Dominik, you can please come back, stay here with us, and also Werner Diwald, if you're here, could you please join our Q&A session? Good to see you two. Maybe I'll start with you, Andrew. There were multiple questions around offtake agreements and how that is necessary to accelerate projects. What is your view on that, and when do you think those offtake agreements, or can they be signed already, or when do you think they can be signed in the next years?
I mean, so clearly projects need offtake agreements to be financed and constructed. So, early large projects will need long-term, offtake agreements like early LNG export projects had several decades ago. Obviously, at the moment, there are many, projects competing for the very small market that currently exists. So, no, I think in general, when there aren't large offtake agreements being signed yet. Clearly, they're coming. It's just a question of timing. But yes, I think it's very much an emerging market. It's not here yet, but it's coming, hopefully.
Thanks, Andrew. And now, good morning to Werner Diwald as well. Good morning to Germany. Great to have you here. We already listened to your presentation this morning. Maybe one question to you, which came earlier today. Will Germany need to import green hydrogen? And if yes, would that be most likely as liquid hydrogen, ammonia, or another carrier solution?
Yes, of course, Germany needs an import of renewable energy. And so if you see the amounts, it's only possible to do it over hydrogen. And the second question from you, I think it depends on the time. Like Dominic mentioned out before, in the moment, or in the end, we need the liquid hydrogen, or that will be the best carrier, energy carrier for everything. But in the moment, there are not the transport capacities for that. So I think we start first with e-fuels, e-kerosene, or with ammonia too. And I think a big role will be played for Germany or for Europe, the pipeline transport. So if you see to feed in the pipes, that will be a solution. So I think that it's not black or white solution. We will see a lot of energy carriers, but if you look after 2050 or later, I think it will go more and more to pure hydrogen. Then we will see the fuel cell cars and trucks on the streets, or the steel companies who use then only pure hydrogen.
Thank you for that insight. And I think it's also great that there is a supply chain feasibility study between Germany and Australia, which is exactly looking at that to see within the next 2 years to come back with results what would be highly likely to use in the future. Mr. Werner Diwald, maybe another question to you in regards to hydrogen fuel stations, because we saw that in your presentation this morning, you highlighted those. Are there any issues with the hydrogen infrastructure development? And again, how many hydrogen fuel stations are there at the moment available? And within the next 1 to 2 years, how many are coming on top of those?
So at the moment, it's nearly 100 filling stations are in operation, and we expect that the next years we will increase to 400 filling station. Now it's focused a little bit more on the truck filling station, or filling station for the trucks, because the concentration is now from the manufacturers on the trucks, because the challenge or the challenge to reach the climate targets is, especially in this sector, very, very high. And so we believe that the trucks will play in the next years the main role. And for that, we need the filling station. And of course, I think this is 100 filling station. You can drive through the whole Germany. It's not comfortable, but it's possible. But of course, we need the increasing of the filling stations. But in the end, I think that is not really a challenge. It will become every time, if you look in the newspapers and informations on the filling stations and chicken and egg, and it's a big problem, the filling stations. I think that is a little bit hyped. We talk about 12,000 filling stations, conventional filling station in Germany, and on each corner is a filling station, so it's only 12,000. That is not really a big number, and I think we can reach it if the trucks and the cars are there. Then I think I'm sure that the filling stations are not the bottleneck in the end.
Thank you for that answer. And yeah, in my opinion, I think especially in heavy transport, and we will have another question around that. We have a lot of potentials, and we see in Australia as well that for heavy vehicles, for example, buses, or in the mining industry, hydrogen is a very big topic as well. Andrew, maybe a question for you. Do you have any experience with that, in especially focusing on heavy transport, using hydrogen as a source of energy?
What I would say is that the Pilbara I mentioned is a big iron ore and export region in Australia. Currently, almost all of the energy consumed in the Pilbara is in the form of diesel. Over 3 billion litres of diesel are imported each year into the Pilbara, a massive number. Miners are starting to want to decarbonise now, but they're not yet sure whether they're going down the electrification route or hydrogen fuel cell route. Or ammonia fuel cell route. So again, the technology options aren't fully defined yet. But regardless of which energy source they use, they'll need large amounts of cheap, clean energy. So projects like ours will be a key enabler for that decarbonisation. So hopefully that answers your question somewhat.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew, and good to hear that. Maybe to come back from a question we had earlier today. Hydrogen as an aviation fuel, and Leigh Kennedy already tried to answer that question. Maybe Dominic, do you have any insights on that? Otherwise, I would also ask Werner Diwald what the state is there and how Airbus and Boeing are engaging around that. Maybe Dominic, you first.
There is definitely research on that, and it was a topic before. So there were studies made before, and liquid hydrogen is one topic that they look into. But of course, also synthetic e-fuels, synthetic fuels, to have the decarbonization on a short term, because you need to do research on liquid hydrogen planes and then implement them. But the planes now in the air need to be decarbonized too. So that's why we need synthetic fuels, jet fuels for that.
Thank you, Dominic. Yeah. And Werner, you next, maybe?
Yeah, so we expect now the new law for the environment law, and there's mentioned out 2% of the synthetic or the kerosene should comes from hydrogen e-kerosene in 2030 latest. So that means 200,000 tons. I think that is the first step. And what Dominic mentioned out, we have an existing airplane fleet. And for that, we need the decarbonization also. And we have not only looked to the new technologies, I think, but that is guilty for the car and truck sector also. If we look to Europe, we have 250 million vehicles on the street. And for that, we need, and it's unrealistic to believe that they will change 50% or more latest in 2030 of this fleet. So we need a solution for that. I think that is a bigger challenge than the challenge for new cars, for new technologies. So how we can decarbonize or reduce emissions of the existing fleets, and they will drive, or the technologies goes forward. So the fleets are not operated only for 5 years. Now they work 15 years or 20 years around that. And so I think that is really a challenge, and we need a solution, and we need an open discussion for e-diesel also. I know that the efficiency rate is not so good, but in the end, we need a solution for the existing fleet. So I think that is not the right discussion over the efficiency. I think we have to discuss realistic reductions or realistic solutions for reduction the emissions in a working economy.
Thank you, Werner Diwald, for that. And maybe one last question before we go to the next speaker. Andrew, there is another question which is directed towards you, especially, again, talking about hurdles around projects. And yes, offtake agreements or offtake in general is one of those. Price, the price factor is one of those as well. What do you think would be a third biggest hurdle which we need to overcome, and where maybe the German-Australian relationship would come in to maybe solve that?
So I think a big challenge is the scale up of production of electrolyzers. So I mentioned before how we'll ultimately need about 14 gigawatts of electrolyzers just for one project. There'll be many projects of this scale ultimately. So at the moment, obviously, total global production of electrolyzers, the capacity is a fraction of that. So that is a challenge, but also a big opportunity. And I think we are currently where the solar PV industry was about 15 years ago. So yes, there are tremendous challenges transitioning, previously or industries that were very hard to decarbonize before through the scale up of wind and solar and electrolysis particularly. But that also presents enormous opportunities for Australia and Germany.
Thank you very much. And I know there are more questions in the Q&A section. Unfortunately, we do not have too much more time to answer those. If you really want to have your questions answered, reach out to our speakers directly in the chat, or just, again, put them in the general chat. But thank you again, Andrew, Dominic, and Werner, for your time today, for participating in that virtual conference. And I'm very happy to engage with all of you within the next days, months, and years to further accelerate the hydrogen industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you. And so now we go to our next delegate, and I'm very happy to announce Corinne Ziege. Now she's Managing Director at Cryotec and will give us some insights and other input right from Germany. Good morning, Corinne, and over to you.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Thanks. I hope you may see my presentation now.
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to be here at this German-Australian Virtual Business Conference. It's a good opportunity talking to each other during these strange times. During my talk, I will guide you through our company, and afterwards, please contact us for any question or comment. Also, my colleague, Kevin Jung, will join this conference. He's one of our sales managers, so he will be there to answer any questions during this conference as well. So, my name is Corinne Ziege, and I'm the Managing Director of Cryotec Company. We are a plant engineering and manufacturing company specialized in technical gases. More than 20 years ago, I have started working as a project manager dealing with technical projects. These projects were, for example, dealing with high and impressive requirements for production of microelectronic equipment. So during these days, a good relationship with other German and European companies is very important. So we are dealing together with BASF, Siemens, Schott, Airbus, and other companies. Cryotec and myself, we are a member of the Highvolt Forum. And this Highvolt Forum is the most important hydrogen consortium in East Germany, with specialists for hydrogen topics. So Cryotec Anlagenbau, the company itself, is situated in Wurzen. This is near Leipzig in the former eastern part of Germany. The company was established in 1995, and since 2009, it belongs to the EPC group. So in general, we are doing fine despite of COVID. At the moment, we are building a hydrogen generation unit, or an electrolyzer unit. So we are manufacturing CO2 recovery units as well as air separation unit. And at the moment, I'm very proud that we are building our own photovoltaic park to work climatic friendly in the future. Our construction technicians follow high quality German traditions. Most of our workshop workers are over 10 years already with the company. We delivered plants to Egypt, to NATO and Afghanistan, for example. So we are used to deal with climatic or special climatic conditions and desert conditions. We are trustworthy. We also delivered already 3 plants to Australia. Our specialty is in modular design and know-how in technical gases. Looking at the supply chain of hydrogen, together with EPC Group as our shareholder company, we could handle the full value chain of hydrogen. Cryotec itself is interested in the manufacturing of tailor-made plant solutions specialized for clients and projects. And because of these tailor-made solutions afterwards, these ones are then most efficient. Of course, looking at the full value chain together with EPC, we could handle the full concept investigation, like feasibility studies. We can have a look at all the special safety issues. For Cryotec point of view, we are more interested in the electrolyzer solutions, purification of hydrogen, and as well as the storage. Storage and handling of hydrogen, as mentioned before in the talks we already heard, is an important part of the full value chain, as it is directly connected to efficiency and safety. Looking at some references we are doing, as told before, we are a plant manufacturer specialized in skid-mounted and containerized solutions. We are already dealing with plants for hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and argon. So that means if we talk about electrolyzer solutions, there's the opportunity to produce hydrogen and oxygen in parallel. So the step is very small for us to develop containerized electrolyzer units with looking at the hydrogen and, for example, also the oxygen components. Due to the confidentiality of our hydrogen customers, unfortunately, we are not allowed to share these photos with you. So that's why I keep our presentation simple. At Cryotec, we are focused on doing small quality, small projects up to mid-sized projects. Our focus is on delivering high quality to fulfill our customer needs, and the projects then are completely manufactured, made in Germany. Here you can see another project, what we have done. For example, this is a picture showing a small-scale LNG plant, which we have delivered to Gazprom in Russia. So as you see, this project is completely pre-manufactured and containerized. And looking at the hydrogen solution at the storage and transportation issue, we are experienced in the LOHC technology. There the hydrogen is solved in a special chemical as a carrier to make it easy and more safe to handle and to transport the hydrogen. And here we are involved in a project for a hydrogen release plant. Together there we deal with the partner Hydrogenious Technologies. And again, our skid-mounted prefabricated solution makes the project easy to handle on-site. It's just plug-and-play installation. So time to market will be predictable. In parallel to that, on the right side hand, you can see some photos that we are building up our own photovoltaic solution. And then we are also will be involved in the Power to X development. What we can offer to Australia, first of all, I think we could start with some small steps. So we are we do focus on PM electrolyzer units with different sizes. And in parallel to that, we could offer CO2 and plants for the production of oxygen, nitrogen, or argon. And on the right side hand, you may see a picture of a reference we have already delivered to Australia. So our advantage is, as the projects, the plants itself are already pre-manufactured and pre-tested, then the plants can be, let's say, commissioned and start up just by remote access here from Germany, so which makes it very easy to get the plant started and running. Also, we are dealing with some biogas treatments to biomethane or bio-LNG. Yeah, and in the past, air separation units with the production of nitrogen, oxygen, and argon are our main focus. And so hopefully we do have the opportunity to grow the business of hydrogen together. Thanks for listening. In case you do have any more question or comment, just follow us on LinkedIn for more information. And also I would be happy to hear from you during the next days or in the future.
Thank you, Corinne. Great presentation. And I would jump right next to our next speaker, Mr. Guido Kutschki. Very happy to have you here today. He's from J.Schneider and International Sales Manager, and he will focus on their product solutions they have. Guido, good morning, and over to you.
Hello, good morning. Max, many thanks. My name is Guido Kutschki, and I'm International Sales Manager, the head of the export department at J.Schneider Elektrotechnik in Germany. after the presentation, please feel free to contact me or our partner, GFF, Mr. James Fitzgerald, who is as well attending this session here. And let me introduce our company first. Oops, sorry. Okay. J.Schneider has 3 business units. First of all, we have the transformer business unit. We are producing transformers from 100 VA up to 10 MVA. Here we produce transformers for manufacturers for special applications. Here we supply transformers and reactors to wind turbine manufacturers for the solar energy and some other special applications. The second business units, these are the UPS systems. UPS systems can be AC UPS systems, but most likely DC UPS systems, which are capacitor-based or battery-based, and high voltage power supplies. This is another business unit, and everything started with the service center. With the service center in 1939. So we offer our products in the third generation. We're operating worldwide, which means we supply our products around the globe. We do not manufacture outside of Germany. We produce only in Germany. We have well-trained and motivated employees. Development, production, quality control, service management, everything is under one roof. So we have a very short ways in case of any special requirements for customers or customized solutions. We offer modern production processes. We have a high flexibility for standard and customized products and a high level of delivery performance. To give you an idea about the 3 business units, we have about 370 employees, 370, and we have a turnover over 60 million euro per year. Okay, for all these applications we saw today and we heard about, be prepared for the next blackout. This is very important, a UPS system for the next generation. Why is an UPS system mandatory? Of course, saving money during blackout to avoid production interruptions. Measuring devices keep running like power quality analyzers. You can induct a control shutdown for your industrial PC. Safety functions keep running like fire alarm system, emergency exits. Pitching systems of wings keep running to avoid damages on wind turbines. Yeah, simple. To say it simple, a UPS is a power supply and a UPS in one device. Typical market segments, you will find our products in the water supply and distribution, textile industry, electrical power supply, machine builders, automation industry, wind energy, solar, remote monitoring, telecommunication, railway technology, safety engineering, data centers, shipbuilding industry, and much, much more others. Wherever you need a power supply and a backup, you can use the products. I want to introduce you our DC UPS systems, the systems we call CTEC and AC-CTEC. These are capacitor-based UPS systems, which are available with DC input and DC output, or AC input and DC output. Where you can use such products? Typically, you use them for short-term interruptions. These UPS systems are online UPS systems. This is a unique selling point. There is only J.Schneider worldwide, the only company who provides DC UPS systems as an online system. Not AC, I'm talking about DC. These units are operating with integrated ultracapacitors as an energy storage, not with an electrolyte capacitor. They provide nominal input voltages and nominal output voltages. Buffer time you can extend with additional capacitor modules. Very important is long life maintenance. They are long life maintenance free as well under high ambient temperature. You can use these units from -40 degrees Celsius up to 60 degrees Celsius. After recharging or discharging, recharging is very fast, not like batteries. Capacitors you can charge within seconds or minutes, and we offer them in a compact housing for DIN-rail installation. You have no gas generation, therefore you can use them in hermetic sealed housing. This is possible, for example, for ATEX applications. On the other hand, we produce our Accutech series. These are battery-based UPS systems, which are online systems as well, which is as well a unique selling point. You can run them in a master-slave operation to increase the power or to increase the system reliability. You can have a redundant system. Nominal input and output voltages are available. You can activate a booster for fast charging. You can control charging the batteries. This keeps the lifetime of the battery longer. We detect wrong polarization and wire break. The units make every day, they make a test if the battery is okay and connected. And as well, we have them in very compact housing for DIN-rail installation. Yeah, here you can see the online function. The battery is connected to the output in parallel. That means when the mains fails, the consumer is supplied by energy immediately. There is exactly no interruption. And this is, for example, a system which is an offline system. Here you have a switch. When the power fails, you have a small short gap. You have a small gap here when you have a power failure. Okay, along the Accutech and CTech units, we offer software for monitoring, shutdown, and setting parameters for the simple units, and we have VDS certified UPS systems for fire alarm systems or emergency exits. There we have a special software where you can measure as well the internal resistance of the battery. Typical applications, the best power quality analyzers are useless when they have no auxiliary power. In case of a power failure, they cannot record when the power is coming back. You cannot see transients, events, and such things. For wind turbines, we manufacture transformers and reactors. But beside these two products, we deliver as well for the wind turbine industry UPS systems for lighting protection, eco surrounding for offshore wind turbines, radar for the planes, and pitching systems for the blades to bring them into the wind or out of the wind. So here we supply the charger for the capacitors and the capacitors itself. Typical application where we are very active, these are the photovoltaic industry. We offer transformers and reactors, and we have as well the auxiliary power with our CTech unit for the inverter. Typical application can also be an elevator system. Here we have supplied for ThyssenKrupp in London. There's a building called Scalpel. They have 27 elevators, 170 meter high, 11 shafts, and they are using DC UPS systems for the communication for emergency cases, ventilation units or fans, and 17-inch screens. Typical application can also be aggressive air environment when you have PLCs or variable speed drives in such environment. Then you can use our product because our boards, our PCBs are coated. Yeah, electronic locking systems during a power failure, the customers, they need to access their lockers. We are very active for safety in engineering, in the field of safety engineering, especially for buildings, public buildings. We supply all these fire alarm systems or emergency exits or door holder, magnetic door holder, door access, and so on. We supply with the Accutech units, and these units are certified according VDS and UL 864, which is the highest standard for alarm systems. Very special, very typical application. These are the industrial PC. We call them IPC. For machine builders, they have 24 volt. They have a backup system, and they can shut down an industrial PC after a certain time. When the power is coming back, the units are starting the industrial PC, and the system is running again. Last but not least, this application here we offer the ultra capacitor voltage stabilizers. They are very something special for data centers, for example, when you have as a backup a flywheel, when you have a flywheel running and you need to supply the energy for a certain time until the gensets are kicking in, then these UPS systems are supplying all the equipment of data centers. The maximum power we have here, these are 5 times 800 kVA in parallel with capacitors, not with batteries, with capacitors. And the smallest one has 1000 VA. To give you an idea about our customers, which are regular customers, not one-time customers. I think this give you an idea who are our customers and what they are doing. Okay, many thanks for your attention. In case of any question, please feel free to contact me and our partner GFF, who will consult you as well, or they can supply you as well with products. Many thanks.
Thanks, Guido. And I think the application possibilities are immense, but I would jump next to our next speaker, Mr. Udo Grabs from Reuter. If you could please come on stage. He's sales engineer and especially talking about pressure hydrogen storage tanks. Hi, Udo.
I will share my presentation. Just a moment. Can you see the? No, not the right. Just a moment. Once more. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Udo. It's not in presentation mode yet, but
yes. Just a moment.
Yeah,
present
perfect.
mode. Okay.
Thank you, Udo.
Well, thank you. Thank you to be a member of this meeting. My name is Grabs. I'm a sales engineer of the company Reuter STC. And this company is near Berlin. We are between, that's the location between Polish border and Berlin. The company has a long history. It was founded in 1872 by Julius Pinch. That you have some information regarding the history. Julius Pinch has built there at this factory a lot of parts for the gas industry, pressure equipments. That means gasometers, gas regulators, piping systems, boilers, tanks for locomotives, parts for submarines, and so on and so on. That means the area in Fürstenwalde has a long history of this developing and producing pressure equipments. In 1945, the company was closed. All machines go to the Soviet Union, but then they start once more this business, and they have designed a new company. It was a company in CTR, Gazelan, and this company has also produced regulators, safety valves, storage tanks, and vessels, complete chemical plants for the pharma industry, cosmetic industry, for petrol industry, and so on and so on. And after unification, before unification, there were more than 3,500 employees at this company. After unification, they have cut at this company in different parts. And one part where they have produced before vessels and storage tanks was bought by Reuter. And since this time, one part is part of the company Reuter. You can see it there. The owner is Mr. Finn Meergaard. The CEO is from Denmark. This company has this moment approximately 180 employees, and we produce in our company storage tanks. You can see there that the company has the possibility for transport of big parts to the whole world. That means we have a Haber in Fürstenwalde, we have a main road, and we have near Berlin also the airport. And we have a big industrial area to produce storage tanks. That means we have 170,000 square meters to produce storage tanks. It's not only the thing that we are producing storage tanks for hydrogen. With moment we have heard a lot of things about the company and about hydrogen, how important is hydrogen. We produce such hydrogen storage tanks since a long time. And we also produce towers for turbines. I have to switch because I have heard a lot of things before. We a main product we are looking to establish in Australia is the hydrogen product, the production of hydrogen storage tanks up to 350 bar. In some of the speakers were talking about to storage hydrogen or to storage is a very important thing. We also think so. This time, the efficiency of some electrolyzers and some other parts have not the optimum. But why we don't store the hydrogen from electrolyzers with not such a high efficiency this moment? Because hydrogen is the same like the coal in the ground and the oil in the ground. If you put it into a stock, if you have the storage, then you can use it in the future. That means We think that it's important to have storage tanks or to store hydrogen, and then you can have the possibility to change all different equipments to make them to have a better efficiency with this equipments. Turbine steel meters are also a part of products we are producing in Fürstenwalde since a long time. Since the 1995, we produced towers for wind generators. It was the first time that the business started, and our customers are like Nordex, Enercon, and Vensis, and a lot of global and big players are using the steel towers from Reuter Fürstenwalde. Well, we can produce in our company equipments, and especially the storage tanks with a volume of 1 cubic meter to 250 cubic meter maximum, the diameter of 65 meters and the length of 40 meters, and when we can handle product with a weight of 100 tons. That means we can produce big storage tanks and together with a pressure of 350 bar, we can store there a lot of hydrogen inside the storage tanks. But you have to know if the pressure is going higher and higher, you have to find the optimum between the weight of the storage tank and the weight of the medium inside the storage tank, because then you have a big difference. If you have a very high pressure, then you have a very big thickness of the storage tank. That means weight of the storage tank is much higher than the hydrogen you have inside the storage tank. That means we are helping to find our customers to find to optimize the storage tanks dimension, and also to find the right way to optimize the weight of the hydrogen inside the storage tanks. Well, you can see there the next picture, storage tanks we have produced for Siemens. That means what I was talking about, we are not a producer of storage tanks like standard storage tanks, and you have to buy these storage tanks. No, we are design and we develop and produce storage tanks according the ideas or the parameters of our clients and customers. And this is such a storage tanks we have produced for Siemens. It was placed there in Dubai. And there you can see a next tank. This moment we have produced this tank. That is a very new picture I have made. And then the last picture shows the tank we have in manufacturing this moment. That means we produce a lot of storage tanks at this moment, and then I hope we can also do this for Australia. Well, something storage tanks, well, normally people say, okay, simple thing. No, it isn't. You have no chance to make a reset. Oh, there was a mistake, I make a reset. If you have done a mistake, you cannot ever use the material once more. If you don't produce in a high quality from the beginning of the moment you get the material till the end, you have no chance to produce a hydrogen storage tank, because it's a very difficult product because of the situation that the smallest molecule the hydrogen, and if there are some holes or whatever inside the material, you have a big problem with storage tank. Well, we would like to sell such storage tanks to Australia. We can also produce such storage tanks for ships, for other different application. We also produce storage tanks not only for hydrogen, for also for liquids and for oxygen, nitrogen, and so on. And we have a long history and a long time of experience to produce for the petrol industry, for chemical industry. There are special storage tanks. But we are only a producer of storage tanks and towers and mechanical parts. And well, that's what we are doing. And thank you for your attention. Yes. Well.
Thank you, Udo, for that presentation. And since we're a little bit short of time, I would jump to Lucy Wegenau. Lucy, thank you for being a part of our delegation. Great to have you. Lucy is Export Sales Director at Remote Control Technology. Lucy, if you could please come on stage now. It's your turn, and we are looking forward to your presentation and insights.
So, good morning to everybody, and good afternoon. I hope you see my screen now.
Not yet, Lucy. Udo, could I please ask you to turn off your camera as well, please? Thank you. Lucy, could you maybe give it another try? We can't see it yet.
Okay, again.
And if it's not working, we are happy to share from our end.
Now?
I can't see it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But Lucy, if it's fine for you,
I am sharing.
We'll just share from our end, and you'll just tell us when we should go to the next slide. Is that fine for you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, just give us a second.
Just,
we're bringing
it's
it up.
coming. It's coming. It's coming.
No.
Now?
No, not yet. But we'll do it from our end, Lucy. That's fine.
Okay.
And now you should see it. We can now see two presentations. Lucy, either you stop sharing or you want to take over from there.
I take it over for there, okay?
Good.
It's
then
okay
we
now?
stop our screen sharing. We can see yours.
Okay.
And thank you for your patience. Sorry for being a little bit late, but now over to you.
Okay, so we are Remote Control Technology. My name is Lucy Eneida Vigue. I am the Export Sales Director. Remote Control Technology is a company that provides solutions for the monitoring systems. We have focused in the we are focused in the last 18 years mainly in monitor tankers for the oil and gas industry. Mr. Martin Meyer was the founder of the company, and today we have exports, 40% approximately exports, and we mainly control or sell our control solutions in Germany. Our control solution has been designed to are in smart modular solutions that can be installed in any type of tankers for the liquid oil and gas industry, as well as for the power generation business and for the chemical industry. we are precisely working in power and energy supplies. So we control all the oil and gas industry, the tankers in the oil and gas industry. We have also entered the pharmaceutical industry, supporting our Merck company in a partner project with them. We are also working on the water, sewage, and water disposal. We have developed a project in order to monitor the floodings in Berlin. We are as well in the administration business in municipalities. We are house and building, and we are also working in logistics, containers, and transport. Okay, so what are the areas we are? We are in the tank monitoring, we are in meeting monitoring, and with the object monitoring. So we not only supply the software, we as well supply the hardware. We're starting from the sensors. From the sensors, where we have developed all the type of sensors required for the gas industry and for any other application with partner with any company in order to provide a solution to the customer. Our major equipment is obviously our transmitters. We have developed the plug and play solutions in order to monitor any levels or any objects, any movements, any alarms in the tankers, in order to provide via the latest technology of transferring data, for example, the cellular, LoRa, NB-IoT, Sigfox, in order to feed with the data our data management system. We have developed with our RCT and a specific mobile app and web app in order to provide the customer with the latest solutions for the monitoring of their systems. As you said, you can see in my slide here, in the left-hand side, the hardware, and in the right-hand side, the picture of what is our software. So as I said before, we have developed the solution for the monitoring source level in the oil and the LPG industry, but as well in many other gas solutions. We have developed the transmitters, and we are working together with the partners in order to provide them with the information that they require in order to provide the level monitoring that it is required in this industry. As well as the gas, we have developed for the oil and water monitoring systems. And in this case, as I said before, we are working in monitoring the water for the irrigation systems, as well as for the flooding system, on even the water in the consumptions in the households. We have also started to work together with the Samsung company in order to develop a solution for cryogenic gases, where of course the hydrogen gas come into place. We have developed a specific solution here for the pressure, for monitoring the pressure, and with household sensors in order to monitor the pressure, the temperature, and other parameters that needs to be monitored in these tankers. We have also developed, as I said before, in the chemical industry with the company Merck, we have developed a system in order to provide the company with monitorings of the barrels, containers. We also work here, we have provided the logistics for their freight documents. This has been a joint venture development, and is obviously a huge step into the chemical industry. As well as As well, we have developed a system for monitoring the meters, the gas meters, the electricity meters, the water meters. So we have developed the system because today is not only to supply the electricity, is also understanding the logistics, the consumption, the much more via the additional value added system like the monitoring systems. This is a view of how our platform looks like. This is an example of the petrol station monitoring system where you can see the levels of the tankers, where you can see the capacity, where you can see the alarms, where the system will provide you the different parameters in order to monitor any supplier chain, and obviously the consumptions of the fuels. In relation to the features of our platform, we say we like the think stock. So in our platform, we provide standard features, but as well we develop with the customer the necessary according to their requirements. So we provide overview on the levels. We provide notifications and limits, low limit, high limit of the tankers. We provide information about the demand. So our company can, any company that provides fuel in the industry can monitor the consumptions according to the area and can analyze any future delivery of the products. We mainly partner with our customers in order to make sure they have the information that they need in their apps or in their computer system. Additional benefits from our remote control systems as also that we are providing warnings on levels of the tankers. We optimized the route planning for the filling exactly according to real demands. We reduce the driving distances because obviously we monitor all the fuel levels. And obviously the local demand. Everything is provided with the high certifications. As you know, the oil and gas industry have very high demands in certifications, and we as a company provide the products with all certification required for this business, for the oil and gas industry. So with this was my presentation. I look forward to hear from you if you want further information or you want to have additional information about our remote monitoring solutions.
Thank you, Lucy. Great presentation, and I'm very happy for you to conclude that conference for all the delegates and key speakers. I'm very, very happy and optimistic about all those topics we were talking today, not only hydrogen, energy infrastructure, but the whole value chain, which we can further accelerate. And well, I just want to say we from the chamber are always here to build the bridge between Germany and Australia, and I think we have a very good foundation already. But yeah, I can say we are here in the next months and years to help and foster that collaboration between the two very important countries when we're talking about those topics, Germany and Australia. And please reach out to us if you have any questions. Reach out to our delegates. We had so many great innovative ways of finding solutions, and not only products, but also services. Please reach out to them if you need contact details. Happy for us to facilitate that. Great key speakers today who were giving insights about the hydrogen and energy infrastructure state, both in Australia and Germany. Yeah, but with that, I would like to conclude the conference. We have some more time for networking, so please stay around, go into the networking mode, which we will change into very soon. And yeah, get to know other participants, our delegates, our speakers, and also us. And thank you very much for attending. It was a pleasure to host this conference. Very happy to have you all, and talk to you soon.